It was under these circumstances that Kunivela had decided to cast teleportation. He had not chosen to surrender because he thought he could flee. Rather, it was because he needed to organize his thoughts enough to converse with them. In addition, he did not want to speak with them by himself. It would be better to withdraw first and then surrender as a group, Kunivela thought. However, a moment after the teleportation took effect, Kunivela froze. He was still in front of these two mysterious people. The teleportation had not taken effect. Perhaps some spell had negated it. Kunivela, as one of the undead, had already witnessed many things he had never seen before just today. The fear rose inside him once again, and his eyes went wide as he studied the pair before him. The taller-robed figure extended a hand. It was a skeletal hand. The names of many skeletal magic casters flashed through his mind, but they were all oddballs. None of them could have defeated Kunivela the Night Lich. So what was this being? As his thoughts reached that point, they froze. He had been dominated. He could not even resist it. Kunivela the Night Lich had actually been dominated like a zombie or skeleton. His mind and soul had already acknowledged the being before him as his controller, his master. What should have been an object of fear had become a master to whom he owed his loyalty. He could tell that this was a skill to dominate the undead, one which he possessed as well. However, that skill was only effective on undead weaker than himself, which meant that his master was significantly more powerful than Kunivela. Once under his dominion, Kunivela would have no chance to shake it off so long as the other party did not want to relinquish control. All that was left now was to beg him, his master, to show mercy. Master pulled back his face-concealing hood. It revealed a bony skull. Based on the skeletal hand he had just extended, it was not a mask, but his actual face. There must have been some meaning behind not killing Kunivela, but choosing to control him. It would be best if it was because he felt that it would be a shame to kill him, that it would be better to keep him alive, the dominated Kunivela thought. Now then, start by handing over all your research notes and your treasure. Hand it over. The smaller figure to the side removed its hood too. It had blonde hair and red eyes. She looked like a human child, but she was apparently undead. Given her intelligence and appearance, he concluded that she was a vampire that had been spawned from a human. As she was a companion of his master, he could not bring himself to harbor any hostility towards her. I hear and obey. Now I shall begin with my treasure. Kunivela used a key to unlock the treasury in his room, and took out all the sacks within. There were 15 of them in total. Each of them contained 1,000 gold coins, for a total of 15,000 coins weighing 150 kilograms in all. While the undead did not directly need money, there were times where some of the living were willing to deal with them, typically people from the dark side of society. Completing their requests would reward them with gold, and gold was also a valuable item when dealing with them, so he had naturally saved up a lot of it. There was also a bag of gemstones in addition to those. The table also had spell scrolls, enchanted wands, and other magic items. I also have 3 other bases in addition to this one. The other half of my assets are located there. Since he was being dominated, he truthfully revealed the location of all his hidden treasure, in order to maximize the gain for his master. Ho ho, that's quite a lot. It really is. Home invader number 2, don't you think you should show a little restraint? You really let yourself go, didn't you? Well, I've been thinking it all this time. I have to say it today. Shouldn't you behave more like a princess? You were when I first met you. Number 1. We've been traveling together for 5 years, you know. After going through so much, even the undead will change to some extent. Yumu. I have my doubts about that. Logically speaking, the undead should not be changing on a mental level. Does that also mean they'll never grow? So does that mean this is the way your personality's always been, number 2? It doesn't seem that way to me, and when you get down to it, it's all because of you, number 1. What with all that impossible magic items that are each worth an entire kingdom, and summoning monsters that look like they could level an entire country by themselves. Master ignored the chattering girl and opened his sack, then took several gold coins out of it. So they're all trading currency, then? That helps me out a lot. After all, exchanging a large sum of money is quite troublesome. Calculating the gold content of each country's gold coins was very troublesome, and so in order to facilitate easy trades, Kunivela only used these coins. Was that why you've been using recast Yggdrasil coins all this while then, number 1? You've seen them before, haven't you? That's exactly it, number 2. Now then, on to the heart of the matter. My first question is, what are the movements of your organization? How cautious are they of me? We are wary of you, of course, but everyone is basically prepared to surrender unconditionally at this point. It seems some of them have also fled the group. Name them. Kunivela recited a list of former members who had run away. There were half a dozen in total. What do you think, number 2? The girl consulted the piece of paper in her hand and nodded. It seems 2 of them got away. What should we do, number 1? Hunt them down and kill them. If we don't rip them out by the roots, we'll never be able to get a good night's sleep. That's wonderful, number 1. You've gotten better at telling jokes. See, the undead can grow too. Next we'll have to work on your naming sense. I was not joking. Master did not speak. The girl bit her lip and peeked at Master. Rudeness to the Master was intolerable, but Kunivela had not been permitted to attack. And also, were the two who escaped lucky or unlucky? Given the conversation from just now, they don't sound like they're going to spare them. Are the names I pick really in such bad taste? Frankly speaking, they are. But Heteromorphic Sue was pretty good. It was funny. Funny, huh? Still, Blondie was terrible. The girl planted her hands on her hips. Those guards were giving me weird looks back then, and it was so embarrassing. But they didn't say anything. That's because names have different meanings among different races, and being killed for making fun of someone's name isn't anything new. People are more sensitive to that problem in cities with mixed populations. But they couldn't hide what they were thinking. But we didn't go there again after that. Excuse me, Master. Kunivela asked nervously. Both their eyes. Kunivela only cared about his master's gazes turned to him. All the undead magic casters who belong to Corpus of the Abyss are willing to surrender to you, Master. Does it please you? Oh, yes, let's settle things on this end first. Well, it's bad form to answer a question with another question. I still have to ask. Why do I have to accept it? Kunivela gulped at his master's doubt. You lot might say that, but you'll definitely harbor resentment in your hearts. Why should I spare you? Only by tearing you out by the roots will I eliminate future problems. We would never do such a thing. We could not even think of defying. I've heard enough of that. Then what would happen if you learned our weakness? He could not hide anything from Master's demands. If it benefited us to destroy our foe once we seize his weakness, we would do so. You see. Only with respect to elements that Master deems harmful by taking us as vassals we will surely be of use. For instance, I can guarantee that we can outperform any other think tank, as long as we work together, and of course we can serve as troops against your enemies. Master, well, your power is matchless, surely numbers can serve as an advantage. Kunivela desperately struggled to demonstrate his worth. That is true. I do have something that needs researching. But according to your colleagues, which I eliminated earlier, nobody can do it. Is that true? Everyone had a rough idea of who was studying what within the group. They shared their information to avoid feuding over resources due to duplicating each other's efforts. However, there was no guarantee that each person was telling the truth about the contents of their research. Kunivela himself was conducting secret research of his own. Perhaps this hidden material could be used as bargaining material. If he said, everyone has their own secret topics, then Master would need to go and question everyone, which would mean he might step up his attacks against the organization. Perhaps the others had considered that too, which was why they had chosen to be killed without saying a word. That might have been why Master had not brought the topic up. Then, what if we offered up a fixed sum to you every year? With a great deal of money, you could hire more of the living to help carry out research. I have no need for money. The girl beside him nodded. Then why did you have me hand over my treasures first? Was it not very strange? In response to Kunivela's question, Master shrugged nonchalantly. I was just looking for any rare items you had among it. And I also wanted to savor the adventurer's spirit of gaining treasure after beating a dungeon. Kunivela could not help but wonder what he meant by adventurer's spirit. Was he going to wipe all of them out just for that? Surely he would have fought back with all his might if he had not been dominated. Of course, that was nothing more than a pointless fantasy. I have more questions for you. Since you are under my control, will the other members of your organization come to save you, or will this stronghold self-destruct after a while? That is to say, is there any demur to us in staying here? It was hard to explain what those demurs were. If Kunivela vanished, the others would assume that something had happened to him. But who on earth would risk themselves like this? Perhaps all of them might come, but probably not to rescue Kunivela or to attack Master. It was more likely that they would offer surrender or ask to negotiate. In any event, there was nothing which would be immediately unfavorable to Master. However, one could not overlook any disadvantageous developments which might emerge after this. There are none. However, that is only for the next day or so. As several days pass, the more time passes, the more likely someone will think something is off. In addition, there are still dominated undead in this space. What about them? If they are still around, they might launch an attack. Kunivela might have been dominated, but that was just him. The undead he had created were a different matter. They would probably carry out their orders to kill all intruders the moment they saw Master. On the other hand, now that Kunivela was dominated, the undead that were under Kunivela's domination would be freed of it. Those undead were probably trying to flee right now, and would not attempt to begin hostilities. If it's just the undead here, then I can deal with all of them easily, even if they attack me all at once. There's no need to worry about that. Sir. Kunivela bowed his head. He understood this already, but hearing Master actually talk about his superiority left him speechless. Now then, explain your findings to number 2. Be quick about it. Understood. For the members of Corpus of the Abyss, the fundamental aim of their research was to achieve great magical might. While he did not think the girl would understand, he told her anyway. During this time, Master stored all the treasure into a magically created pocket dimension. And that is it. Alright, thank you for your hard work. Now, for the next question. Tell me everything about all the members of your organization. Their abilities, their locations, points of note, and so on. So that was it. He had used this power to dominate the others, then made them tell him everything before destroying them one by one.